So if you're into the outdoors like I am, especially with vehicle-based travel where you do any camping, maybe rock crawling, overlanding, trail riding, whatever you want to call it, especially with a family of 4, you need to have a good portable water solution. Traditionally for me in the past, that's meant that I'll just buy the 1-gallon jugs, use them once, and then not end up recycling them because honestly, they just don't taste that good with the plastic after a while. So I finally went out and bought this Scepter 20-liter or 5-gallon for you American types water jug here to keep in the back of the Jeep, which is awesome, but I want to take this one step further. See, this is great, but with 5 gallons of water in it, trying to pour this out into a cup or whatever is just gonna make a huge freaking mess. So after doing some research online, I actually found that you could easily pressurize the water for pretty cheap. So for about 30 bucks and an hour of your time, you can use a spout like this and have pressurized water out of your water can for whatever your needs may be. Let me show you how we do it. Okay, so I definitely don't take credit for coming up with this idea myself. I watched other videos, read some forums, and tried to figure out what was maybe the most cost-effective and effective solution, and also what was the quickest, because time is valuable. Don't worry about writing this stuff all down, as I'm going to put it in the description below. But obviously to start, the linchpin of this whole thing is the Scepter 5-gallon water jug. I bought this at Lowe's for about 45 bucks. You can get it on Amazon as well, and I'm sure a million other places on the internet. The other really important gadget that you need to buy, and I would try to buy the exact one that I link in the description here just to make sure that all the dimensions work, but is this spigot. So it basically has a hand pump. I think it's meant maybe for RVs, but a hand pump to generate pressure. It has a 1/2-inch adapter on the bottom so that we can put in clear tubing. And then basically how this works, or how it's going to work, is we're going to drill through the cap. We'll insert the top through the cap, put the bottom on the underside, and basically snug this up against the O-ring here on the threads to create a nice seal. You also need to purchase this 1/2-inch tubing. This is 10 feet, and it was about $6 from Lowe's. And then a couple other odds and ends. You'll need a file here. You'll need a step bit to approximately 1 1/8. This one goes to 1 3/8. I actually did buy this for this project because I didn't have one. So I'll put that in the description as well. But basically make sure that it can go to probably about 1 1/4 inches or above, and you should be good. And then lastly, any kind of hobby knife or knife to cut through the cap. So, all right, those are the materials. Let me show you how we're gonna get them done. Okay, so for the first step, we're gonna take this cap off and lift it off of the spout. Like that. Now for the second step, we want to take our knife and we want to cut this as flush as possible all the way around the spout. And it should come off just like that. Okay, now that that's off, I'm just gonna show you real quick here what our game plan is. So this is the threaded piece for the spigot, which needs to go on the underside of the cap. As you can see, if we kind of tried to center it on the current hole, we really wouldn't even be able to cinch it down. So the goal here with our step bit is to actually drill towards the center of the cap as much as possible. That way when this thing is on the underside, like so, it will not get in the way of being able to be tightened down. Eventually we will file this nice and flat as well, but we're gonna get that hole drilled first. The goal here at the step bit is just to try to put pressure and move towards the center as much as possible. Cool, so we're basically just gonna keep drilling until I can slide this all the way through and start threading on the spigot. Okay, so now that we got our hole about where we want it, I'm gonna go ahead and take the file and try to just file the top and bottom here to get it nice and smooth. Okay, so I got this cap, I think at a decent spot. You really don't need to go crazy with it as far as filing it. Just make sure it's nice and smooth and all the big chunks are gone. As you see here, the cap on the bottom, because we moved the hole with the bit towards the center of the cap, fits with just barely enough room on the bottom to turn it, but that's exactly what you need. So what you'll actually want to do is take the O-ring off and thread this from the top, and then once we get it on, we'll put the O-ring here and install it on the bottom. You want to mount the spigot basically so that it is in line with the cap here, and that's how you know that this will be facing completely forward on the jerry can once we are all done. Okay, so with this installed, I guess it probably would have made more sense to do this off the get-go, but I'm going to cut this ring off. And the reason I'm going to cut it off is because whenever I want to refill this jug, with this spigot sticking down into the can, I don't think I'll be able to get this all the way out, or at least with enough clearance to get water in. So I'm gonna wanna be able to remove this whole thing, which means I'll cut this ring off. We should just be able to take the knife here and run it around this edge in order to get it off. A little trick here, you don't actually have to cut all the way through this. If you just score it, like so, you should be able just to bend this back and forth and get it to break off. Just like that. All right, next you're gonna take your O-ring and we'll thread it all the way down here on the threads, all the way up against the cap. Like that, and then go ahead and thread on the bottom cap. All right, for the last step, we're gonna take our tubing here, we're going to insert it into the bottom of the spigot, and now we just gotta figure out how long to cut it. So I'm gonna essentially just rest this thing about where it'll sit when the cap is tight, and then basically eyeball it here to the bottom, and you know what, close enough, we'll cut it there and call that good.
I got to try out my new pressurized water tank on a snow camping trip the following weekend, and it performed flawlessly. Having pressurized water to drink and rinse dishes with is a huge value add in my overland setup, especially at the price tag of around $75. Hopefully you all found this video helpful. Please like it if you did, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and leave any comments or feedback you have for me in the comment section below. Be sure to check back for the full snow camping video in a few weeks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.